Welcome to History, Human Rights, and the Power of One, the podcast where we explore the legacy of justice through the voices of the past and how those voices still speak to us today. I'm Kenneth B. Morris Jr., great-great-great-grandson of Frederick Douglass and great-great-grandson of Booker T. Washington. I'm co-founder and president of Frederick Douglass Family Initiatives. In today's episode, I'm calling out the disingenuous trend of misusing my ancestors' legacy to justify political agendas he would have fiercely opposed. This is Hijacking Frederick Douglass, a message I feel deep in my bones, not just as a descendant, but as someone committed to continuing his fight for truth, equality, and justice. So let's get into it. Frederick Douglass wrote thousands of editorials, delivered countless speeches, and published 3 best-selling autobiographies. He gave us a towering legacy, one rooted in the fight for freedom, justice, and human dignity. But today, his legacy is under attack. I see it firsthand. People cherry-pick his words, strip them of historical context, and twist them into political cover for agendas he would have opposed with every fiber of his being. So let's be clear. This isn't just about misinterpreting an historical figure. It's personal. I carry his DNA, not just in my blood, but in my work through Frederick Douglass Family Initiatives. When his legacy is distorted to justify policies that harm Black Americans, I don't just see revisionism, I see betrayal. One of the most abused quotes comes from his 1865 speech, What the Black Man Wants. Here's the excerpt they love to weaponize. Do nothing with us. All I ask is, give him a chance to stand on his own legs. Sounds like a call for self-reliance, right? Well, that's how conservatives frame it. Proof that Douglass was a pull yourself up by your bootstraps kind of guy, opposed to government help. But that interpretation is false. He wasn't just rejecting help, he was demanding freedom from interference. He gave that speech at the end of the Civil War when Black people were navigating a hostile, uncertain future. He was pushing for full citizenship, suffrage, and protection under the law. And when those protections vanished during Reconstruction, when federal troops withdrew, when the Supreme Court gutted the 14th and 15th Amendments, and when lynching became the weapon of white supremacy, Douglass didn't call for silence. He demanded action. He fought for the Freedmen's Bureau. He lobbied for civil rights legislation. He used every tool, political and personal, to push for equality. So no, he wasn't some small government absolutist. He was a realist. He knew that self-determination was impossible in a system that was rigged to keep Black people in chains, whether literal or systemic. And let's talk about the people doing this hijacking. Among the worst offenders are Black conservatives, especially right-wing Christian evangelicals who use Douglass's name to scold rather than uplift. They echo white grievance politics, attack DEI efforts, and push the dangerous myth that racism is a thing of the past and that if Black people just worked harder, they'd succeed. They parade as champions of Douglass, but they're exploiting his legacy to profit, selling books, running training programs, raising money off white audiences who want permission to avoid dealing with racism. Many of these folks point to Douglass's allegiance to the Republican Party. He did call himself a dyed-in-the-wool Republican, but that was when the party stood for abolition, civil rights, and Black advancement. Not today. The party Douglass supported was Lincoln's party. The Republican Party of 2025, grievance-driven, racially divisive, and morally bankrupt, bears no resemblance to that legacy. Douglass was loyal to principles, not parties. When the Republicans abandoned Reconstruction, he condemned them. You can't invoke that quote about being a lifelong Republican and ignore the decades he spent holding the party accountable. Frederick Douglass was not a mascot. He was a radical thinker, a fierce abolitionist, a relentless agitator. He believed justice was never given. It had to be demanded. So if you want to honor his legacy, don't reduce him to sound bites. Engage with the full depth of his beliefs. Read the thousands of pages he left behind. Grapple with the complexity of his ideas. But if all you want is to use his name as a political shield while rejecting everything he stood for, then do us all a favor. Keep his name out of your mouth. Thank you for listening to History, Human Rights, and the Power of One. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Frederick Douglass's legacy belongs to all of us, but only if we engage with it honestly and fully. You can read the full version of this piece on my Substack and subscribe for more stories that connect the past to our present struggle for justice. Until next time, keep agitating, keep questioning, and keep standing on the right side of history.